If you've just joined us, you're watching Newslink on DSTV channel 403. Now, today is World Read Aloud Day, and Nal'ibali is encouraging you to read out loud to your friends and family. Nal'ibali is also encouraging reading in your mother tongue. Let's speak to Bongani Godide from the Nal'ibali about this reading initiative and Reading for Enjoyment campaign. Bongani, good morning, and thank you very much for your time.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here. Beautiful studios, by the way.
No, it's a pleasure to have you with us. I think I've done my share for today. I've been reading out loud.
Wow.
So maybe I can tick that box.
Wow.
But talk to us on a serious note about World Read Aloud Day. What is the significance of this day?
I think firstly it's important to acknowledge that World Read Aloud Day has been there for over 12 years now, and it's celebrated all over the world. But more importantly, we acknowledge that reading aloud to children has the most powerful impact on children's brains. You know, what we are getting is that children who have the opportunity to be read to, they tend to develop much more quickly than children who do not have that opportunity. You know, and even their participation at academic level, especially when they get to school, they tend to have more. They are receptive to the learning process because of the whole stimulation that has already been developed through reading aloud. And some of the important things that we need to talk about is that children are the ultimate copycats. So when parents take books and read to them, children look at that. They also say that, and they will want to do that more and more as they grow. So what is important is for us to encourage people, the community out there, to read aloud and to make that a daily habit. Because what the opportunities that we miss is that we do not do these things on a daily basis. You know, this is something that we visit once in a while. So as Nal'ibali, we're encouraging parents, community, the community, everyone to do reading aloud. You know, make it a habit, make it every day. You know, now that we are living in the era of load shedding, use the load shedding time to read aloud to your children. Why not? Yes.
That is actually one time that you could read out loud to your children. But most parents are so busy right now, and I'm sure a number of them can actually attest to this, that it becomes so difficult with juggling everything else. It's work and all sorts of other sports, extracurricular. You hardly find the time to read to your children. And most of them think that a great deal or an amount of reading out loud is done at school, so the teachers do that part for them. And you're saying it's not enough. We've also got to pick up a book, and it must be something that we inculcate in the culture of the household.
Yeah, you see, one of the things I always emphasize, and I talk about this even with the teachers, one of the things that I talk about is the notion that when children get to school, they don't have the opportunity to be read to the stories that they like, you know, the stories that they can connect with. They have to follow the curriculum. So what they are read to at school, it is what is required of them. They need to answer questions, you know, they are being judged on that. So at home, children have the opportunity to choose the books that they like, you know. They have the opportunity to go with parents to the local library and choose the books that they want, because the critical and most important thing is that it is their choice that they make. It is my choice that I want to read this story. I look at the book and I'm like, wow, this book, you know, if I can just hear someone reading it to me. So that is one important aspect about reading aloud to children, that when we have children and them choosing the books that they want to read, you know, the books that they love to hear stories from, that allows them to enjoy those books, not the books that are imposed on them, not the books that are forced on them, you know. So that is the whole difference that we always encourage parents, that they need to find time, you know. We encourage you that reading aloud or storytelling is not a complex matter.
And it used to be done in the African culture, you know, when there was no television.
So now we have excuses.
Yes, we remember. You would have the uncle that would tell stories,
you know,
and
what
you'd
I'm
all
saying.
gather around.
Exactly.
But I suppose with all this technology, everybody's so distracted, and the parents just say perhaps the tablet will read to the young one. But there's another dynamic that you brought into this. You're saying mother tongue.
Yes.
That is even more important, and something that many of us might neglect with our children, assuming that you don't want to bombard the child. Choose one specific language, and then a bit later on you'll start to introduce mother tongue. What do you make of those parents that believe we need to stick to one language, not to confuse the child? You're saying mother tongue is important.
Look, here's the thing. We are at home. I speak to my child in Zulu. My child goes out on the streets. They speak Zulu. And when this child goes to school, then he finds an English book, this child. Then he needs to read in the language that he does not even know. You know, he knows nothing of this language. The only language he knows is the language that he has been speaking at home and with his friends on the streets. That's the language that he knows. So when this child gets to school, it's English, boo. this language. Now they need to associate reading with excitement. Now this language that they do not know, everything is spoken in this language. They are being taught in this language. Then how do children begin to like reading? So it is for that idea that we are saying that children must have the opportunity to be read to in the language that they know, in the language that they understand, the language that is spoken at home, so that when they read, when they are being read to, when they meet literacy at that early age, they will enjoy, because this is the language they know. This is the language that is spoken at home, and they will begin to associate reading with fun, because the language is it's the language you speak at home.
But in some of us, the dynamic can be that the children are speaking English at school.
Yes.
The teachers sometimes encourage that even at home, continue to communicate in English so that they become more proficient.
Yeah.
But there would be a mother tongue. My mother tongue is Siswati.
Yes.
So in most instances, we would speak Siswati, but not necessarily to the child all that much, because they've encouraged to continue with English.
Yeah.
So would you still say that it's important, even if they are a 4-year-old, it's still important that let's also introduce reading in Siswati as well?
Exactly. I'm glad you raised that. It's critical for them, because language goes with culture, language goes with identity, So one of the things that you always want to emphasize is that this is the language that they are born into. They are born into this language. Sometimes we live in a family home where we speak English, but when we yell, when we become angry, we go back to Siswati.
Yes,
then at a later stage we come back, hence, language theory speaks about language 1 and language 2. That, sometimes we might be happy with speaking language 2, but from time to time, language 1 comes on board, So what is important? We need to encourage parents that they must not neglect mother tongue language. They must encourage their children to read in mother tongue language. And I think that is what Nal'ibali is emphasizing. Nal'ibali uses this Nal'ibali supplement. So this supplement comes out in different languages. It has a story inside, and that story is in all 11 languages. It goes with, for example, Isiswati and English. On the other hand, it can come in Isizulu and English, or Sesotho and English, So for those children who do not have the opportunity to be read in mother tongue, this supplement is something that they can use. In our communities where we work, like where I work mostly in Bramfisher, you will find that we have schools who have 4 or 5 languages, Siswati, Isizulu, Xhosa, and all these other languages. And you will find that those children with this supplement, they are able to learn a lot, because our children come from townships where at home they might speak Isizulu. One friend is speaking Xhosa, the other friend is speaking Isiswati. They pick up. Let's embrace that. Let's embrace that. Let's use the opportunity to embrace that, so that children are multilingualistic, and that is critical for their own development.
Now you're trying to reach 3 million children. How will you go about doing that?
We work with many partners, including the Department of Basic Education, including many other partners in different communities. So everyone, including parents themselves and everyone at home, So this call this year is that we are calling on all the parents, since the theme this year is every day is a story. So that encourages everyone to tell stories, We are calling on you. I'm glad you read the story this morning. We are calling on everyone. Let's all, mobilize as much resources as possible, so that everyone gets involved, because our literacy levels in this country are not impressive at all. So we are calling on everyone, working with different partners, including yourselves as media, to then say, let's all read to children. Let's make this a habit. Let us celebrate literacy in our communities.
And I see you've brought some interesting books for us. Perhaps you would do your share for today and read out loud for us, perhaps in Xhosa. Let's try Xhosa or Zulu.
Okay, for today I have Sitsonga and I have Isizulu. The title of the story ngesilungu is Every Day is a Story. Ngesilungu usuku ngalunye luyindaba. So the story is written by Utumisang Shongwe. So Nal'ibali every year commissions a writer to write a story for that particular World Read Aloud Day. So this year's story is written by Utumisang Shongwe, and it goes. Unewo umbali kanye nogogo bavakashele kubo kaAfrika ngaleli holide. Uphela nayo wayekhona. Ngomsumbuluko bachitha usuku lonke epulazini likaMalume kaAfrika, baqoqa amaqanda, bakhe umbila, futhi bagibele nogandaganda. Abantu abasebenza kanje kufanele bathole okumnandi kusho umalume ngenkathi ebakhela umbila. Uphela ujahe kabi ukutshela abangane bakhe esikoleni ngosuku lwanamuhla. NgoLwesibili uNewo uAfrika noBhela basiza ugogo ukubhaka amasikoni amnandi. Ugogo wanika uMbali inhlama encane ukuthi adlale ngayo. Uma esepholile amasikoni umme waAfrika uhlephula amahlanu wonke awagcobe ujamu. Wonke umuntu uthola amasikoni ngaphandle kukaMbali noDinhle.
Thank you very much. I honestly need to be that animated for my kids. I think they would love it. Tonight I'm definitely reading to them. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Godide. More news on the other side of this break. Do stay with us.